you pointed to the area that's catty corner to 23 Road and Logos Drive, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then you said that the first lot on Logos Drive, catty corner, was a...
It was an empty lot that had a drainage catch basin type thing.
So nothing that would obstruct your view?
No.
And then the second lot over, that's where your business was?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where did you see the vehicle?
On Logos Drive heading east.
Okay. Was it, when you saw it, was it east of 23 Road or west of 23 Road?
It was east of 23 Road.
And it was heading further east?
Yes, sir.
And did you see it more than once?
I just recall seeing it heading east, and that was it. I never recall seeing it coming back west.
You do not recall seeing it back west?
No.
Do you recall seeing it go through the stop sign
No, sir.
and then turning north on 23 Road?
No, sir.
Okay. If you would have given that information to law enforcement, would that have been accurate?
If I said that, I'm sure it would have been accurate. This time, I don't recall it.
Okay. And the times that you saw it, you're sure that was between 9:45 and 10 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, cross-examination would be ready. Thank you.
Can you get Burke back?
Okay, Mr. Solis, so in 2007 you worked at Mesa Wireline, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right there on Logos Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's just east of 23 Road.
Yes, ma'am.
And up and down Logos Drive are businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounds like your business obviously serviced the oil field, but also there were some down that serviced the oil field as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Like Lone Wolf Drilling?
Lone Wolf Wireline.
Okay, sorry, beg your pardon. And Lone Wolf, just to be clear, Lone Wolf Drilling was on the same side of 23 Road as Mesa Wireline, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated working at Mesa Wireline, you were on call 24 hours a day?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you would really, and that was 7 days a week?
We had occasional scheduled days off.
Oh, sure, okay. But your scheduled days off weren't always the same?
No.
And did Lone Wolf Drilling, Lone Wolf Wireline, similar situation, 24-hour day shifts?
Yes, ma'am.
And so it wasn't, so really people are coming and going down that Logos Drive all hours of the night.
Yes, ma'am.
And it could be random, it sounds like. You just get called up for a job, you have to be there.
Yes, ma'am.
And this wasn't unique to your position. Other workers in that area had a similar scheduling arrangement?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, obviously you noticed this red car driving east down Logos Drive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you actually think it could be somebody's wife from Lone Wolf Wireline?
It was a joke that we made simply because of the late hour of the night.
Okay.
It was a simple fact of I had operators at the time, their vehicle would break down, their wife would drop them off, their wife would pick them up.
Okay.
So you see a single female driving a car down the road of a known wireline, known oil field service company area. You kind of joke, oh, hey, look, somebody's wife's looking for them. They're checking to make sure he's not at the bar. They're checking to make sure he's actually at work.
Right, okay. And so they could be a joke, maybe the wife's checking up on the husband, but also sometimes wives would take their husbands to and from work.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, sort of made this joke with your coworkers about it could be a wife checking in on her husband, and that's because you could see in the car that it was a female, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you could tell that she had blonde hair.
Yes, ma'am.
And, I mean, is it also safe to say just, you know, a red, sporty, compact car, more of a woman's car?
I really don't judge women
Okay.
based on vehicles. I know plenty of women that drive four-door lifted trucks. You can't really stereotype just a little red car as a woman's vehicle.
Right. That's a good point. And in this case, it sounds like you didn't have to because you could see the woman driving the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, as you see the car drive by, nothing strikes you about the car in terms of it being out of place, right?
No, ma'am.
Or like something's wrong.
No, ma'am.
And nothing about the woman you saw made you think she was in any sort of distress.
No, ma'am.
The car wasn't racing around in some sort of panic.
No, ma'am.
Now, I think you told Mr. Rubenstein this, but I just want to make sure well, no, I don't think you guys did talk about this. Let me just ask you, did you review your report that was written by law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, that was not a report you wrote, right?
No.
That was a report that the law enforcement officer wrote after speaking to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you noticed in your review of this report that there were some details that the law enforcement officer left out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the report doesn't document the...
Female blonde hair.
Yeah, okay. But these are obviously important details, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And don't you think it's safe to say that if you saw a female with blonde hair back then driving the car, you would have told the law enforcement officer that?
Yes, ma'am. I cannot be held responsible for what he did or did not write down.
Right.
We held a conversation over the phone. He never indicated to me can you please hold on? I assume he was taking notes as he was going.
Yeah,
I don't know.
okay.
There's
Yeah.
always the chance at the time I was working 100 hours plus per week.
Okay,
Maybe I did forget to mention the fact that I saw blonde hair female in the vehicle.
okay.
I don't recall that.
Okay, so it's possible that maybe you didn't, you left those details out, but it's also very possible that you put those details in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because you're trying to give as many details as you can remember to the law enforcement officer, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But like you said, you can't be held responsible if he didn't put those in his report, right?
That's correct, ma'am.
And in reviewing his report, it appears to you that he may have left out some important information you provided him.
Possibly.
Okay.
Either that or I didn't tell him that based
Right.
on the fact that I was exhausted at the time.
Okay, but we did already discuss how it's pretty likely you gave him that information.
I would say it's likely.
Okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Solis, I want to follow up a little bit about the traffic and the amount of traffic that you were talking about with Ms. Smith. Do you recall that there was a car wreck that evening?
I don't recall that there was a car wreck. I recall not being able to get to work the normal route that I took.
Okay,
Normally
so
I
you
went
didn't
north on
back then know
23 road.
why?
No.
You
All
just-
I knew was the road was closed, there was a bunch of flashing lights, detour signs, went a different way to work.
And the vehicle that you saw, you took note of that as to the type of vehicle and the sort of general description of the driver. Why was that? Was it unusual at that time of night, or what was the reason why you took note of it?
10 o'clock at night, red shiny car, dark area, blonde hair lady.
Unusual for the businesses that were there.
You expect to see people dressed like I am. People dressed in work clothes, people dressed either coming or going expecting to get dirty or have gotten dirty. you expect to see, even my coworkers didn't really keep clean vehicles. They were always parked outside. Shiny red car, blonde hair, it just caught my eye at that moment as it went by.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
I have no questions, thank you.
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Can he be released from his subpoena, or?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith, are you okay with that?
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. You're free to go and release from your subpoena. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I just leave this here?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Actually, if I can have just a second.
Yes, sir. You're fine to go,
Okay.
I think. They're gonna talk about something else.
For just a second.
You bet. They were talking to me, I think. Thanks.
He can be released, thank you.
Thanks. The people's next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Carolyn Foss to the stand.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi.
If you'll just be careful of this black cord, I need to give you an oath before you testify, please.
Okay.
Sure. You'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thanks. And if you have a seat in the green chair right behind you. Thank you. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Rubenstein. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi,
Can you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
my full name is Carolyn Emily Foss, and my last name is spelled Foss.
How are you employed?
I'm full-time employed with Walker Products.
Were you working for Walker Products back in June of 2007?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember a red Ford Focus being burned up in the parking lot there in June of 2007?
I remember a car being burned up in the parking lot, but other than what I've been told, I couldn't remember what it was or what color.
Okay. And actually, I said June of 2007. It was possibly July 1st of 2007?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact date.
Were you interviewed about whether or not you had seen that vehicle prior to the date that it was burned in the lot?
I remember being interviewed by a police officer, but I don't remember what the contents of the interview were.
Okay. Do you remember what shift you were working back then?
I didn't remember. We had to have HR look that up, but it was swing shift.
What is swing shift? What are the hours?
Swing shift would have been 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 11 o'clock at night.
And what time would you leave? Would you leave right at 11 when you got off?
Most of the time I would leave right at 11, but as a supervisor back then, if I had anybody waiting for a ride, I would not leave the premises until everybody had been picked up.
What days of the week was that shift?
That would be Monday through Friday.
Okay, so you said 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 11 o'clock at night?
Yes,
And then Friday being Friday night at 11, just before it becomes Saturday?
yes,
Okay, so if the vehicle, hypothetically, if the vehicle was burned on a Sunday night, you would not have been at work that day on that shift, right?
no,
Or the day before?
no,
And so the last time you would have been there would have been the Friday night and the Thursday night?
yes, unless I worked that overtime shift that was on Saturday during the day. And I don't remember the hours of that shift. I just know there was an overtime shift that day.
Do you recall whether or not you saw the vehicle on that Thursday night or Friday night?
I don't remember back that far.
Okay. If you spoke to law enforcement back then as to whether or not you saw it, would you have told them the truth about whether or not you saw it?
Yes, I would have.
Do you recall testifying previously in this case?
Yes,
Do you recall being shown a map back then?
yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you what's marked People's Exhibit 205, and for the record, I've previously shown this to defense counsel.
Thank you.
Ms. Foss, when you testified previously, was your memory better about this?
No,
It was not? Okay. Do you recognize that map that I just showed you?
I do recognize that map.
Does it have your handwriting on it?
No, my handwriting's not on it anywhere.
Okay. Does it have any handwriting on it?
Yes, but it's not mine.
That's not your handwriting. Okay. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for this witness.
Smith, cross-examination, please.
So, good afternoon, Ms. Foss.
Good afternoon.
Is it fair to say that you really can't remember too much about seeing that car that got burned in the parking lot?
No, all I remember is the burned car and police tape when I showed up at work on Monday.
Okay. And that's mainly because it was so long ago, right?
Right,
And so you really have to rely on what law enforcement documented about what you said 9.5 years ago.
yes,
And what that law enforcement officer you spoke with put in his report.
yes,
And because your memory about the car has faded over 9.5 years, you have to trust that the law enforcement officer took accurate, detailed, and thorough notes, right?
yes,
You actually took a look at the report that the law enforcement officer wrote about your statement, right?
I did.
And that contained some of the information that you had provided him.
Yes,
Now, that is a short report, right?
very short.
2 lines.
Yeah,
And it contains information you actually don't remember providing.
yes,
And it does not contain information you remember providing.
yes.
Now, you don't have, is it fair to say that you don't have an independent recollection about what you saw Thursday and Friday night when you got off work?
That's true.
You had to, yeah, for that, you have to rely on what the law enforcement officer wrote.
Yes,
But you do have an independent recollection of another incident involving a suspicious car, right?
I have a vague memory of what at the time I thought was suspicious, yes.
Okay. It's obviously, again, what you said vague, right?
Yes, no details.
No details. And that's again because it's 9.5 years later.
Right,
And is it the case that what you vaguely remember is that prior to seeing
Your
the
Honor, may we approach?
Yes, you may. Feel free to stretch, everybody. Thank you. can proceed, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Okay. So I think what I was asking you about is the information that you have a vague recollection about. What is, at this point, what is that information you can remember?
Okay, what I do remember is sometime just prior to the car being found burned in our parking lot, I remember coming to work one day and I saw a couple, a man and a woman, sitting in a car that was facing our building. It was at the very back of that same lot, and I didn't recognize them. At the time, the fact that I didn't recognize them made it stand out in my memory, but I just kind of brushed it off as the fact that they might have been there waiting for somebody off to get off on first shift for a ride home.
Okay. Was this, I think you said at the time you didn't think much about it. After law enforcement was after the car was found burned, did you think more about it?
After the car was found burned, I wondered if maybe that could have been somebody else and not waiting for somebody to get off of work. So I just thought I'd bring it up to the police.
Okay. You thought maybe there was a correlation between the car being found burned and those people you saw?
I thought there was a possibility and that I should at least say something.
Okay. Did you seek out law enforcement to share that information?
Yes, because they weren't going to talk, I guess they weren't talking to everybody, and I actually asked to talk to a police officer to let them know that information.
Okay, about the couple in the car a few days prior?
Right.
And is that information contained in the report that you've reviewed?
No, I didn't see that contained in the report.
Are you unable at this point to recollect some of the details, like what color that car was?
No, I can't remember any details. All I can remember is a man and a woman, and the car was facing the building and at the very back of the lot.
Do you think that it's possible that there was some similarity between the car the couple was in and the car that was found burned?
That's a possibility. That might be why, for some reason, it just made me think that it might be worth telling the police.
Okay.
But I don't remember at this point.
Sure.
So,
Do you think that it's safe to say if the car that you saw with the couple in it had no resemblance to the car that was found burned, you would have been less likely to seek out law enforcement?
yes, so like if it was a totally different color, I probably would not have bothered to mention it to law enforcement.
Okay. So even though you don't remember, okay, never mind, you answered that question. Do you agree that, well, let me ask you this. Would it be helpful 9.5 years later if the law enforcement officer had documented what you had told him in that report you got to review?
It might have.
Okay. Because it could then have refreshed your memory a little bit better.
Yeah, because that one point did stand out in my mind, so a little bit of the detail might have come back if it had actually been in the report.
Okay. All right. Oh, I know. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Ms. Foss, did I hand you what's marked as Defense Exhibit E?
Yes,
Is that the same map that the prosecution gave you?
yes,
Is the Are the dots the same color?
No,
What color is the one I gave you?
it's got a red dot on it,
Is it in the same place as the prosecution's black dot?
just about.
And is that approximately where you saw the car a few days later, or a few days before with the couple in it?
Yes, that's approximately the location of where I work.
Okay. May I approach the witness again, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
Yes, you may.
Ms. Foss, can you just write on the top of Defense Exhibit D, a few days before the car was found burned?
You mean E?
Yeah, I do mean E, thank you.
Okay, and what did you want me to write?
Well, how about you write when you think you saw the car there with the couple in it?
I have no idea when I saw the car. I just figured that it had to be within that week.
Okay, so would it be safe to say within a week before the car was found burned?
Yes,
Okay. Could you write that on there?
that the car was, that I saw that car within the week before the car was burned.
Just put within a week before the car was found burned.
Okay,
Thank you. Your Honor, the defense moves to admit Defense Exhibit E.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Would you like to voir dire her a little further on the relevance of this or the scope of when this occurred?
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Ms. Foss, I just want to explore a little bit when that possibly could have been, okay?
okay,
So you spoke to them right after the car was found burned, right?
yes,
So if that was on Sunday that the car burned,
yes,
then you wouldn't have seen it on Saturday, right? Because you would know it was just immediately before, right?
right.
And then,
And I'm not even sure I worked on Saturday.
right, and you actually I think you testified that you think you probably didn't, right?
Probably not, because if I worked till 11 o'clock, they may not have let me come in like 6 o'clock the next morning.
Okay. And if when you spoke to the officer back then, you told him that you know it was not there Thursday, but you're unsure about Friday. Does that sound like what you told him?
Right, but they were, I believe when I read that statement, it said that Thursday night and Friday night when I left work. And this car with the couple would have been during the day because it's dark in that parking lot. I wouldn't have been able to see anybody sitting in the car.
Sure. But if you talked to the officer about Thursday and said you know it wasn't there Thursday, then it wouldn't be Thursday you're talking about, right?
Well, except that we're talking about the car with the couple would have been during the day. I said I know that the red car was not sitting abandoned in our parking lot Thursday night when I left.
You don't think
That doesn't mean that couple couldn't have been sitting there Thursday afternoon when I got there.
You don't think you would have mentioned that it was the same day you're talking about if it was the same day?
Well, the statement about the couple in the car wasn't even written down by the officer, so if I did mention it was the same day, he might not have written that either.
Okay. Do you think you would have remembered if it was the same day as the day you were talking about?
I'm not sure if I would have remembered if it was the same day, if it was like Thursday. If it was the same day that the car was found burned, yes, I would have remembered it. But I don't know if I would have remembered if that car was there Thursday afternoon when he's asking me if it was left abandoned Thursday night.
And then Friday, you specifically told him you were unsure if it was there, so it wouldn't be Friday.
Right.
Okay. So it's possible it was there Thursday
It's possible they were sitting there Thursday
during the day.
during the day.
And what time would that be during the day?
My shift started at 3 and I usually arrived anywhere from 2 to 2:30.
Okay. So if it was Thursday, and this was the same car you're thinking of,
Right,
then it would have been on Thursday around 2 or 2:30?
yes.
Okay. Or it could have been
Or-
before that?
Or it could have been any day earlier than that, yes.
Okay, so not after that, but Thursday, 2 or 2:30, or sometime earlier?
Right.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions, and I would object to this as irrelevant.
Do you want to respond, Ms. Smith?
Your Honor, I think it is relevant.
Sorry, can you turn the microphone? Thank you.
Your Honor, I do think it's relevant when she is seeing another car that triggered her memory, or that was, that she thought might be relevant once the red car was found burned in the parking lot, that she saw a similar vehicle in the parking lot a few days before.
Mr. Rubenstein, other argument?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
All right, the objection's overruled and Exhibit E is admitted. The objection, I think, goes more to the weight rather than the admissibility of the exhibit, so that's the basis for my ruling. Thank you, you can proceed.
Ms. Foss, I just have a couple more questions for you. You couldn't remember back then what your shift was exactly, right?
No, we had to look that up.
Okay, and so you talked to the HR person to look at your shift?
Yes,
And so the HR records are what refreshed your recollection that you worked the swing shift?
yes,
Okay, and they verified that you worked the swing shift, right?
right,
And the swing shift was 3 p.m. to 11 p.m.
yes.
All right, I have nothing else. May I just collect the exhibit and the
Sure, unless you're gonna need the witness to use it, Mr. Rubenstein.
No, sir, I have no further
Okay.
questions for her either. I would ask that she remain under subpoena briefly throughout the next witness.
All right, thank you. You're still under subpoena, but just stay in touch with the lawyers, please.
Okay.
Thank you. You're free to go at this point. People's next witness.
The people call Mike Pachota to the stand.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. If you'll just be careful of this black cord, and then I give you an oath before you testify. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, thank you, sir. If you have a seat in the green chair, please. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Rubenstein. Thank you.
Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
It is Mike Pachota, Piechota.
How are you employed?
I am an investigator with the Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 16 years.
And has that comprised your entire law enforcement career?
No, I started off as a probation officer in 1992.
What is your current assignment at the Sheriff's Office?
Currently, I'm assigned to the Property Crime Unit.
In July of 2007, were you assigned to the Property Crime Unit then?
Yes,
What was your sort of role in the office at that point?
same as it is now, investigator.
Investigating generally property crime, non-person crimes, is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Auto theft, burglary, fraud.
Does that unit occasionally assist the complex crimes unit in complex investigations?
We do.
In July of 2007, did you participate in the investigation of the disappearance of Paige Bergfeld?
Yes,
As part of that, did you interview a woman by the name of Carolyn Foss?
yes.
What was the purpose of you interviewing Miss Foss?
She was one of the employees at Walker SMS when I arrived on scene on July 2nd of 2007.
What was going on at that location on that date and time?
A vehicle had been found in the parking lot, burnt, and I was the investigator assigned out there to assist CBI and talk to witnesses that were coming in and out of Walker SMS.
Okay, we'll talk about your role with the investigation of the fire at a later date, but right now I just want to focus on your interview of Ms. Foss. Did you talk to her specifically about whether or not she had seen that vehicle at that location on earlier dates?
Yes,
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'm handing you, it's marked People's Exhibit 205, and again, as I mentioned, I've previously shown this to defense counsel.
Thank you.
Investigator, I inadvertently thought that that handwriting was Ms. Foss's, but do you recognize that handwriting?
yes, it's mine.
Your handwriting. And what did Ms. Foss tell you that she observed about that vehicle on that date?
She told me that it was not in the parking lot when she left at midnight on Thursday, the 28th, and she was unsure if it was there on Friday, the 29th.
Okay. And do you recall if you discussed with her whether or not she worked on Saturday?
I do not recall if I did.
Okay. And you said that that was your handwriting on that diagram.
Yes, sir.
What does your handwriting relate to?
It is a dot where Walker SMS is.
No, I'm sorry, your handwriting? What does your handwriting relate to?
Oh, her statement to me.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 205.
Do you have an objection? People's 205 is admitted. Thank you.
And just for the record, investigator, what did you write on there?
Not present, midnight, Thursday, 6/28, and then my initials.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions for the witness about this issue, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Ms. Smith.
Investigator, did you review your report before testifying today?
I did.
So you know that your statement, the documentation of your interview with Ms. Foss is very short, right?
It is several sentences.
Several sentences?
2, maybe 3.
And basically, the extent of your report is what you just testified to just now about what she said she saw at midnight on the 28th, right?
Correct.
And that she's unsure what she saw the evening of the 29th.
Correct.
Oh, actually, I want to be a little bit more precise in my language here, investigator. Your report actually says that that she said that she didn't see the car in the lot when she left at midnight on Thursday.
That's correct.
Okay. And that she wasn't sure if the car was there Friday.
Correct.
And from your report, well, let me ask you this. Did you make any efforts with Ms. Foss to ensure that you and she were talking about the same midnight on Thursday?
I think I understand your question, and my recollection is that we were on the same page because it was a Sunday when I talked to her, and we were referring to the past Thursday.
Okay. But would you agree that midnight's sort of tricky, right? Because was it midnight, it's not clear if it was midnight of Wednesday going into Thursday or midnight of Thursday going into Friday.
It was, to me, it
Right.
was midnight Thursday going into Friday.
Sure. Because that's what you cared about, right? That's what you're trying to figure out.
That's not what I cared about, that's just what you said.
Okay. But you knew Thursday was the night Ms. Bergfeld went missing.
Yes, ma'am.
And at any rate, I know you've clarified what you thought, but there's nothing in your report to indicate that you verified that or clarified that with Ms. Foss to make sure you guys were on the same page.
I did not write that in my report.
Now, would you agree, investigator, as an investigator, are you trained on report writing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it sounds like, is it fair to say in law enforcement, report writing is not just a skill that's taken for granted?
Correct.
I mean, this is something that you all learn about in training.
Correct.
And I know it's not possible to write, verbatim reports, but details are important, right?
Correct.
Thoroughness is important.
Correct.
And would you say in a case like this, that's being brought to trial 9.5 years later, you rely on your reports even more?
Correct.
And that is because memories fade.
Correct.
And people like Ms. Foss can't remember what she told you 9.5 years ago.
I'm not sure what she is telling now, but I know that's what she said then.
Sure, but your experience with witnesses is that they rely on your reports, right?
If they're shown my reports, they can be.
Sure. And it's your experience as an investigator that it's important to document what a witness tells you because they may not remember 1 year, 5 years, 9.5 years later.
Correct.
And in fact, you may not remember exactly what that witness said to you, right?
Correct.
So you have to rely on your own report.
Correct.
So your report states, and I want to just make sure I get this right, that Ms. Foss saw the red vehicle, right? That's how you referred to it in your report as the red vehicle?
I'd have to look at my report, but that sounds like what I read.
Okay. I can show it to you. May I approach real quick?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. It's 610.
I have it.
Oh, you do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
May I look at it?
Yeah.
I believe your quote was, "Who said the red vehicle?" Was that what you asked me?
Yeah, but I meant to say that she saw the red vehicle. Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry, Investigator Petrona. I'm sorry for the confusion. I just want to clarify that the way that the car is referred to in your report is as the red vehicle.
Given where were we at and what she was looking at as well as I was, correct, my report says the red vehicle.
Okay. So there's nothing in your report there's nothing in the report, though, to verify the make or model of the red vehicle.
In that statement, that is correct, there is not.
And your report also says midnight, right? That was the time frame on Thursday that you and Ms. Foss were talking about?
Yes.
And so given that, so would it surprise you, I'm sorry, let me ask you this, Investigator Petrona. You didn't talk to Ms. Foss about, what she was doing in the parking lot around midnight, right?
I did not ask what her activities were, that's
Okay.
correct.
And you didn't ask what her schedule was?
Not that I recall, no.
So would it surprise you to learn that she actually got off work at 11 and not midnight?
If that's what she's saying, I just know that she told me the vehicle was not there at midnight.
Okay, based on your 2-line report you have there.
Well, it's longer than that, but her statement, yes.
It's 2 lines, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Rubenstein?
Very briefly, Your Honor.
Okay, you can proceed.
Investigator, I want to make sure there's no possibility you guys were talking about a different vehicle. Where were you standing when this conversation happened?
Right outside the sheriff's tape line with the vehicle right in front of us.
So the vehicle you were talking about was right in front of you?
The only red vehicle in the lot.
And you were asking her about whether or not she saw the vehicle previously.
Correct.
No further questions.
Ms. Smith, are there questions for the witness?
I have, just brief.
Okay, you can proceed whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, investigator. We talked a little bit about you and witnesses relying on your report. You also understand defense attorneys rely on your reports too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so that, because a defense attorney wasn't right there when you were talking to Ms. Foss, we may not know that you were right there in front of the car talking to her about the car.
Your Honor, I object to the relevance of what defense counsel knows.
The objection sustained.
Okay, investigator, so you understand that defense attorneys rely on reports, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because defense attorneys are not usually there when you're interviewing witnesses.
That is correct.
And in that report, you don't document that you were standing right next to the car while you were interviewing Ms. Foss.
May I review it?
Sure.
May I answer?
Please.
2 paragraphs above that, I indicated that I was contacted by a few employees who were outside the scene and wanted to talk to me.
Okay, but you don't document that as you're interviewing these witnesses, you're specifically pointing to the car, that the car is, that you don't specify that the car is right there visible as you're interviewing these witnesses.
I did not write that in my report that I talked to her directly in front of the car.
Okay, I have nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Nothing based on that, Your Honor. We would ask that Investigator Pachoda remain under subpoena for other issues, though.
Okay, you're still under subpoena, sir, but free to go at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your next witness, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Mary Martinez to the stand.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Martinez. If you could come up this way, please. I need to give you an oath before you testify. We have a black cord stretched across your walkway, too, if you'll be careful. Thank you. Wherever you're comfortable is fine. Oh, to sit, it'll be in the green chair, but I need to give you the oath first. You'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir. All right, thank you. And if you have a seat in the green chair, please. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Remember, you have to talk loud.
Yes, sure. Can you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
Mary Patty Martinez, Martinez.
Are you currently working?
No.
Are you retired?
Yes.
In June of 2007, were you working?
Yes.
Where were you working?
Walker SMS on 23 Road.
Do you remember a time around then that a red vehicle was in the parking lot of that area that had burned up?
Yes. I went to work at 4:15 in the morning, and there was a red car in the back parking lot.
Was that before or after the car was burned?
Before I got to work, or
No, the time that you saw the vehicle, was it burned then or was it
I
undamaged?
didn't notice. I just drove up and saw it there, and I didn't go look at it or anything.
Okay. Do your recollection did it look damaged to you or no?
No.
Okay. And do you remember talking to law enforcement about that?
The day after.
Okay, so the day after the fire is when you talked to them?
I don't know when the car was burnt.
Okay. When do you recall talking to law enforcement in relation to the car being burned?
The second day is when I saw a law enforcement walking out on the sidewalk.
Do you remember what day of the week that was?
It was on June 30th at 4:15 in the morning,
That's when you saw the vehicle or when you talked to law enforcement?
the law enforcement.
Okay. Back then, was it more fresh in your memory as to what you saw and what dates?
Yeah,
Okay. And when you talked to law enforcement, did you tell them honestly what you had observed?
when I did what?
When you talked to law enforcement, did you tell them honestly what you had observed? Were you
Yes.
honest with law enforcement?
Yeah,
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you what's marked People's Exhibit 206, and for the record, I've previously shown this to defense counsel.
Thank you.
Do you recognize that?
yes.
Does it have your handwriting on it?
Huh?
Does it have your handwriting on it?
No,
Okay, but you recognize having seen that before?
I remember seeing it before, yes.
Was that at a previous hearing we talked about that?
Yes,
Okay, and is that a diagram or a map of the area where you worked?
yes.
Is there a red dot on it?
Yes,
And does that red dot accurately show where you saw the vehicle?
yes.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for the witness at this time.
Ms. Smith, cross-examination, please.
Good afternoon.
Aye.
Hi. Do you remember the make or model of the car that was burned?
No, I don't, just the collar, red.
Red, okay. Do you remember the make and the model of the car you saw parked there at 4:15 on Friday and Saturday?
No, I don't remember.
But you think, is it the case, Ms. Martinez, that you think you saw the car that was found burned previously in the lot, right?
Yes,
And you think it was the same car, right?
it was the same car.
Okay. But the car you saw burned was burned up, right?
No.
Well, I'm sorry,
When I seen it, it was not burnt.
okay. But the car you're matching the unburned car to was burned.
Yeah,
And you didn't get any license plate information from the unburned cars?
no.
Ms. Martinez, you don't know how many red cars there are in Mesa County, right?
Well, quite a few,
Okay, even small red compact cars, there's quite a few.
yeah.
And you don't know how many small red compact cars came in and out of Walker SMS parking lot in the summer 2007, right?
No, I don't.
So you think you saw the car there at, is it 4:15 in the morning?
4:15 a.m.,
Okay. And was that twice? Or
yes.
once? Okay. And 4:15 a.m. is when you come into work?
I start at 4:30. I
Okay.
started at 4:30,
And then your shift ended at 11 a.m.?
11:30, yeah.
11:30.
Mhm.
So thinking back to when you first noticed the red car unburned, at 4:15 the first morning. You didn't see it again at 11:30 when you got off of work.
No, I didn't pay attention, no.
Okay. And then the second time, you see it the next morning at 4:15, right?
Yes,
And then when you got off that day at 11:30 a.m.,
Yes.
you didn't see the car?
I didn't pay attention, no.
Okay. Now, the car, when you see the car parked there in the early morning when you're coming to work, it catches your eye, right?
Yes,
And I mean, it sounds like you distinctly remember seeing it there.
I remember seeing it because it was the only car in the back parking lot, and I was the only one that had gone to work that early before anybody else was there.
Okay. And so this car stood out to you,
Yeah,
but you don't remember seeing it, or you don't remember looking for it when you got off of work.
no,
Okay. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may, thank you.
I've handed you here what's marked as defendant's exhibits F and G, right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
yeah,
Okay. And these are the same map that the prosecution handed you earlier, right?
Yes,
Okay. But the dots are black on these maps,
yes,
right? Okay. So, Ms. Martinez, if I could, what's echoing? If I could just have you write on the top of Exhibit G.
Up here?
Yeah, put the first day at 11:30 a.m.
okay,
And that's when you weren't paying attention to whether the car was there or not,
Yes.
right? Okay. And then on the second one, put second day at 11:30 a.m.
okay. Okay,
Okay, so those maps accurately reflect the two times you don't recall seeing the car there.
yes,
Okay. The defense moves to admit exhibits G and, what did I put in front of you?
G and F.
G and F.
Any objection to defendants F or G, Mr. Rubenstein?
Judge, I would object only because I've previously admitted maps with black dots when the witness indicated that they specifically know that the vehicle wasn't there. So to admit a similar map with a similar dot indicating that she doesn't have any idea if the vehicle was there, I would just ask that she write unsure or something, or maybe black equals unsure or something else indicating what those black dots mean. Other than that, I have no objection.
And I have no objection to that request.
Okay, that's fine. Do you want to have her write something, and then we'll see if Mr. Rubenstein objects?
Yes, I will do that. Ms. Martinez, if I could have you write up at the top where you wrote 11:30 a.m., could you write unsure?
On the first or the second?
Both.
Right, what?
Unsure.
Unsure?
Unsure. Okay. I have nothing else.
Ms. Smith, if you want to reoffer those, I don't have any objection at this point.
Oh, I didn't
F and G are admitted now?
Thank you.
Is that right? No objection. All right, defendants F and G are both admitted. Thank you. Mr. Rubenstein, other questions for the witness?
I have no other questions for Ms. Martinez. I would ask that she remain under subpoena for our next witness.
Okay, you're still under subpoena, but you're free to go at this point. Just
Okay.
stay in touch with the lawyers, please. Thank you. Your next witness, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you. People call Deputy Wayne Keene.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes.
Yeah. Judge, I'd asked the deputy to call him. He's working in the courthouse. Maybe it makes sense to take our mid-afternoon break now, and I don't know what he needed to do to finish out what he was doing. I was planning on asking to take it right after him.
All right, we'll go ahead and take our afternoon break. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember the instructions for the recesses. Thank you. Please rise for our jury. For the record, our jury's left the courtroom. We'll be back in session at 2:40, please. Thank you.
Thank you.